Hi, I'm Brad Bondi with LBMC and a Tennessee HIMSS board member. Initially founded as a traditional accounting firm in 1984, LBMC has become the largest professional services solutions provider in Tennessee. As a top 50 firm in the country, we've become industry leaders in accounting and finance, human resources, technology, risk, and information security for leading healthcare companies. LBMC brings the strength of an experienced healthcare team, deep resources, and a reputation as an effective advisor to each client situation. Whether you're looking for a comprehensive fix or to outsource a single function, we provide the business solutions you need to thrive. Please stop by our sponsor room to learn more about how we can help you and to sign up for our quarterly newsletter to keep up on the latest trends in healthcare. We are pleased to be part of the Tennessee HIMSS Summit 20 conference and would like to introduce the next session, Academic and Industry Collaboration to Enable Artificial Intelligence in Healthcare, presented by Dr. Gretchen Jackson and Lori Novak. Dr. Gretchen Purcell Jackson is the Vice President and Chief Science Officer at IBM Watson Health and an Associate Professor of Surgery, Pediatrics, and Biomedical Informatics at the Vanderbilt University Medical Center. She is an internationally recognized informatician and accomplished clinical surgeon with over 25 years of contributions to informatics research, innovations in health information technologies, and surgical science. She is board certified in general and pediatric surgery, and in 2014, she joined the first class of 455 diplomats who became board certified in the new specialty of clinical informatics. Dr. Jackson's current research is focused on evaluating clinical decision support systems and empowering patients and families through health information technologies. Lori Novak is Assistant Professor and Director of the Center for Excellence in Applied Artificial Intelligence in the Department of Biomedical Informatics at VUMC. Her research aims to improve the beneficial alignment of technology and social life. Current work is focused on developing and implementing AI tools in a variety of clinical environments and creating new ways of understanding and supporting patient and caregiver management of chronic illness in everyday life. For those of you playing along with the token game, the passcode is LBMC. Over to you, Gretchen and Lori.
Good morning, and thank you for attending our session on academic and industry collaborations to enable artificial intelligence in healthcare. I'm Gretchen Purcell Jackson, Vice President and Chief Science Officer at IBM Watson Health, and a practicing pediatric surgeon at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. I'm speaking in this session with my friend and colleague, Dr. Lori Novak, who is an Assistant Professor of Biomedical Informatics and Director of the Center of Excellence in Applied Artificial Intelligence at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. I'll begin by briefly describing AI in healthcare, discuss what is needed for it to be adopted and to be effective, and highlight the advantages of industry and academic collaborations. Dr. Novak will then describe our early experience in a 10-year collaboration between IBM Watson Health and Vanderbilt University Medical Center to advance the science of artificial intelligence in healthcare. Before I get started, let me address briefly my conflicts of interest. I am an IBM executive, primarily in a scientist role, and I still practice surgery part-time at Vanderbilt. If I discuss IBM products, or if I discuss the surgery that I do at Vanderbilt, I have financial conflicts of interest and personal biases, which I'll manage by supporting what I say with verifiable facts or scientific evidence. So let's get started. Most of this audience probably knows that artificial intelligence is a term that is used to describe intelligence demonstrated by machines or computer programs that mimic human intelligence. Most contemporary artificial intelligence programs use machine learning, and these are algorithms that perform a task without using explicit instruction. Machine learning algorithms instead build mathematical or statistical models based on the data that they process. And they use those models to do things like classify findings in radiographic images or to make predictions, like predicting one's risk for readmission to a hospital. Key functionalities that characterize advanced artificial intelligence systems are the abilities to understand, reason, interact, and learn to improve their performance over time. So one of the most common misconceptions these days is that artificial intelligence is an emerging technology, and it's not. AI has actually been around for several decades, and it's here. there are AI tools for all of the stakeholders in the healthcare ecosystem, and many of you probably use them regularly in your jobs. There are artificial intelligence tools for healthcare providers that offer clinical decision support, artificial intelligence tools for payers that can detect fraud in claims databases or identify drivers of cost in healthcare systems. There are AI tools for those who purchase healthcare, like chatbots that can help healthcare consumers choose an appropriate health plan during open enrollment season, as it is right now. There are AI tools for policymakers that can predict the value of a particular public health program or intervention, and AI tools for life sciences company that can help identify targets for drug development. There are finally AI tools for patients that can help them manage chronic diseases like diabetes by identifying trends in data such as glucose monitoring data. So one thing that is particularly important for the adoption of artificial intelligence is trust, and particularly in healthcare. Trust is very important, and it is usually built with scientific evidence. For the stakeholders in the healthcare ecosystem to trust AI, studies must show that algorithms technically perform well, that they predict risk or classify things accurately, that the AI tools can be used by their intended users in the appropriate healthcare setting and fit into that healthcare workflow, and ultimately that AI tools have an impact on health, such as saving lives, reducing costs, or ideally both. AI tools must be evaluated systematically with clinical studies, and the evaluation should be done in the order shown on this slide to avoid confounders, and repeatedly as conditions change. For example, many AI tools that were trained and developed before the current pandemic work as our patient data, the provider workflows, and everyone's priorities have changed substantially in the last 6 to 9 months. So whether you're developing or evaluating artificial intelligence, especially in healthcare, broad and deep expertise is required. I oversee the Center for AI Research and Evaluation at IBM Watson Health, and that is a team that is responsible for doing rigorous scientific studies that show that our solutions work and that they have an impact on health and healthcare delivery. And the diverse expertise that my team has and is needed to do that type of science is shown here on this slide. Design, development, and evaluation of AI needs biomedical informaticians, people like myself, who have multidisciplinary training in medicine, computer science, decision science, and health policy, along with domain experts, depending on the application, such as radiologists or cancer biologists. Algorithm development and technical performance studies require expertise in computer science areas such as machine learning and natural language processing. Design efforts in usability and workflow studies need qualitative researchers with expertise in psychology, anthropology, behavioral change, ethnography, and human factors engineering. All evaluations need program managers, research coordinators. Analyzing the data requires data scientists and statisticians, and of course, biomedical writers to help disseminate the findings of the research. So what may have become apparent in this talk is that I work in industry, but I am an industry scientist. I was an academic, clinician scientist at Vanderbilt for 12 years, pretty much doing the same types of research that I do now, until 2 years ago when I was recruited by IBM. And a lot of people say that I have gone to the dark side. Well, it turns out I haven't actually gone to the dark side, but what I have done is gone to the fast lane and gone to the real world. So that may sound a little snarky, but what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, technology changes really quickly. And in industry, we need to do studies fast enough to keep pace with the rapid evolution of technology. And as an informatics researcher, one of the most frustrating things was writing a grant proposal to evaluate the latest, greatest technology. And by the time that grant was funded and the work was done, the technology had come and gone. It happens all the time. In industry, we also get to answer questions that really matter. Many of our studies are done with clients who say, you know, I use your tool, but to keep using it, I really need to demonstrate that it has value. And my team works with them to define what they mean by value and then do the appropriate study to show that it does in fact have that value, or perhaps that it doesn't. Many people I know, including myself, have actually gone to industry because we simply did not want to write another 100 papers and not change anything. So one of the biggest challenges about being an industry scientist are their extreme biases against industry science. Some scientific meetings and some journals completely forbid, either explicitly or implicitly, presentations or publications from anyone who has a commercial conflict of interest. And the reasons that I hear for why tend to fall into two categories. First, they say that industry people shouldn't evaluate their own stuff. And second, that industry scientists have conflicts and biases. And I think these arguments are really reasonable. In fact, they're so reasonable that they should be applied to everyone. So when I went to industry, I certainly expected that my science would be scrutinized heavily. But what is striking to me is how much work is done in academics where biases and conflicts of interest aren't appropriately managed. So let's talk about who evaluates things like new clinical pathways or new surgical procedures. It's actually the doctors that do them. And most doctors are actually compensated based on the clinical work that they do. The same is true for the field of informatics. Most leaders in the field of biomedical informatics have made entire careers developing health information technologies and doing their own evaluations. And many of those systems, the successful ones, were eventually commercialized. In addition, academics often use vulnerable trainees like residents or fellows who are highly motivated to make their mentors look good. So I think everyone has conflicts of interest. I think we can all agree that good science is collaborative, and the quality of the work is not so much based on who is doing it, but is dependent on having rigorous and reproducible scientific method. We all have conflicts and biases, but they're most appropriately managed by full disclosure, as I did at the beginning of this talk, and transparency, not categorical inclusion. So coming to the point, one of the ways that we at IBM have supported doing the best science to evaluate AI and working with the best people to advance the science of artificial intelligence is through academic and industry collaboration. So both academic and corporate organizations have produced AI tools for healthcare, but their safe and effective adoption rely on comprehensive and systematic evaluation, as well as substantial resources to implement them and to broadly deploy them. Academic and industry collaborations can help build teams with broad and deep expertise needed to accelerate scientific advancements, evaluate tools at the speed of technology evolution, and scale implementation and deployment. The clinical and domain expertise, access to clinical data and health environments, and the scientific reputation of academic institutions can be combined with the diverse talent, funding, resources, and infrastructure to support evaluation and to scale deployment that is available in industry. Such collaborations can also help minimize biases and conflicts in evaluating new technologies, such as by taking the tasks of data collection or interpretation of the data out of the hands of those who are producing or who are selling a product or service. They can also enable the best scientists in the field to work together to produce groundbreaking research and innovation. IBM has made several investments to accelerate the science of artificial intelligence in medicine. In 2016, IBM announced a 5-year partnership with the Broad Institute, which is a collaboration between the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and Harvard University. This academic industry partnership focused on using machine learning and genomics to understand how and why cancers develop resistance to therapies. In February of 2019, the scope of this work was expanded to include developing predictive models to predict serious cardiovascular events, such as heart attack, sudden cardiac death, and atrial fibrillation. In 2017, IBM announced a 10-year, $240 million investment to create the MIT IBM Watson AI Laboratory, which allows IBM and MIT scientists to work side by side, both virtually and in person, to advance the science of artificial intelligence. In February of 2019, IBM Watson Health announced a $50 million investment in research collaborations with the Brigham and Women's Hospital, the Teaching Hospital of the Harvard Medical School, and Vanderbilt University Medical Center, right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Both organizations are leaders in health informatics. IBM has a long history of leading in and leading with science, and these academic collaborations are examples of IBM's commitment to science. If you are interested in the scientific work done by IBM Watson Health, you can visit our website here to view our scientific publications. I thank the Tennessee HIMSS chapter for the opportunity to speak at this meeting. I will now let my colleague, Dr. Lori Novak, discuss the collaboration between Vanderbilt University Medical Center and IBM Watson Health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Lori Novak, as you said, and I'm Director of the Center of Excellence in Applied AI at Vanderbilt, and I coordinate our IBM partnership from the Vanderbilt side. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that partnership and what we're working on today. So for a little over a year, we've been working on this partnership. It involves the central players are my team and Gretchen's team coordinating together, but it really involves all of Vanderbilt and all of IBM. And so there are a lot of interests involved in this, and a lot of people that we've gotten to know and work with over the time. So one key area that we're working on is thought leadership. And so we're writing and putting scientists together to write and think about what is happening in the world of AI in healthcare and what should be happening. And so I can tell you a little bit about what we've been doing so far on that. We have one paper has been published on precision medicine, AI, and the future of personalized healthcare. This was published in Clinical and Translational Science in 2020. And sorry, I think I'm going to have to start over. Thank you, Gretchen. I appreciate your introduction. I am going to be talking about the Vanderbilt IBM partnership and what we've been working on. I'm really excited to be here today, and I appreciate everyone coming to our panel. So again, I'm Lori Novak. I direct the Center of Excellence in Applied AI in the Department of Biomedical Informatics at Vanderbilt. And one of my primary jobs is to coordinate the IBM partnership. And so the partnership, the primary partnership activities occur between my team and Gretchen's team, which is the Watson Health Center for AI Research and Evaluation. But really what we're bringing to the partnership is all of Vanderbilt and all of IBM. And so there are a lot of people involved in this partnership, and organizations and interests and goals. And so it's been very exciting and interesting to work on this. One key thing that we've been working on is thought leadership. This is where we bring the scientists together from both organizations to think, look at the literature, look at what's happening in the area of AI in healthcare, and to write about what's happening and what should be happening. We've got in one publication regarding the precision medicine AI and the future of personalized healthcare already out in the literature. And some other projects that we're working on involve, for example, predictive analytics and patient-provider communication. So we have, we're producing a lot of risk scores, for example, and but not a lot of guidance for providers on how to interact with patients about those risk scores, how to manage a variety of information coming in. And so another area that we have thought leadership underway is technology and health equity. And another area is competencies for clinical practitioners to incorporate AI in clinical practice. And I will be talking a little bit about that one more. We are also collaborating on a supplemental issue of the Journal of Healthcare for the Poor and Underserved, with a special focus on tequity. Tequity is a term that we've coined to think about technology and equity and the relationship between the two. And this is an important time for us to be focusing on this topic, given all that's happening in the world with the pandemic and the social justice issues that have been surfaced in 2020. And so we're very gratified that we've had the opportunity to put together the supplemental issue. We're reviewing papers on that right now. And we're going to be developing a seminar series on tequity as well that I'll discuss. And so in terms of research projects underway, IBM is collaborating with us to fund internships, and that's been a big, an exciting area that we're very grateful for. We've had summer interns in 2019 funded through the IBM partnership. Interns were able to do research with IBM scientists, and we were able to move our fall 2020 or our summer 2020 internship to the fall. And because of the pandemic, we weren't able to have it during the summer. And so we moved it to the fall and have those interns underway now working with IBM scientists. We have an IBM funded postdoctoral fellow who is working on her research project. And I just wanted to mention this project that I referred to earlier, Competencies for Clinical Practitioners to Incorporate AI in Clinical Practice. This is something that what we've found is that there's very little out there to guide educators on how to prepare clinical practitioners, whether they be still trainees or people already practicing in the clinical realm, whether they be physicians, nurses, other types of clinical practitioners. There's very little guidance on what competencies they need to be able to incorporate AI in their practice safely and effectively. So that group has done a review of the literature, and also we'll be doing interviews with experts in medical education as well as AI to identify a fundamental set of domains to be pursued there. Another project that we're doing involves the IBM Micromedics and Micromedics with Watson Assistant tools. These are pharmacological information resources. And we've been working with IBM to do interviews and surveys with clinical users in a variety of roles. And we will also be doing usability testing of these tools to understand how we can, what are the questions that people in clinical roles have regarding medications and medication management, and how can we, how well does Micromedics answer those questions, and how can we improve the tool and learn at the same time? We also, Vanderbilt collaborated with IBM on its submission to the CMS AI Challenge, and the IBM submission was selected as one of 25 submissions to move to the first round, and we will be finding out at the end of October if the project will be moving to the second round. And so we also have a number of projects in development. So these are projects that we're developing to work on for the coming years. And so one key initiative involves the Weather Channel resources that IBM operates, including the website and the app. And we will be developing data resources to understand the relationship between illness and weather states like barometric pressure, humidity, temperature, et cetera, and also weather events like hurricanes, tornadoes, et cetera. And so we're developing new we'll be collecting new primary symptom data related to respiratory. We're starting with respiratory illness. And we will also be developing a resource of new ethnographic data on how people think about weather in their health, particularly groups who are impacted by health inequities, how they think about weather in their health, and then how they think about weather information resources in their health, using the Weather Channel app as a way to stimulate those conversations. And we will also be working with the Weather Channel data scientists to use de-identified clinical data to predict the impacts of weather events or weather states on respiratory health. We're excited to bring new science to visualization, alerting, and messaging to the team. We've got respiratory epidemiologists and visualization experts and health communication experts that will be working with the Weather Channel team. We are also developing a new health equity seminar series that will be focused on health equity and technology, really foregrounding historically Black colleges and universities, and having speakers from those institutions and promoting their work and their ideas in this new seminar series that we're working on. We have other projects related to policy and health services research. We're developing a project related to health equity, another project related to pregnancy and employment, and there will be many more in that regard. In terms of IBM products, we're looking at collaborating on evaluation of conversational agents and other tools going forward. And so, working together, we've learned a lot, and it's been a good experience. We've been we've been understanding each other's goals. We've been collaboratively adapting the academic and the industry pace of work and of change. So things change rapidly in an industry organization, more rapidly than in an academic organization. And so this has been a good learning experience for all of us, and a positive experience. We've been managing data sharing issues, logistical and regulatory concerns related to data sharing on as part of the partnership. We are learning about each other's work styles, getting to know each other's expertise, and then considering other relevant parties that are important to both organizations. For example, students, patients from Vanderbilt, and IBM's clients. And so, Gretchen Gretchen has worked at Vanderbilt and IBM, and I have also worked at IBM and Vanderbilt. And so together we have a fair amount of knowledge about these two organizations. And so that's been an exciting and interesting part of the relationship as well. And so then all of this sort of hinges on effective communication, and we've been able to achieve that through managing our meetings, managing our documents, and all of those invisible kinds of work that anybody in the audience is aware of, that helps us to be better partners in the relationship. And so I'll end with this sequence of pictures of my two sons who enjoy bouldering, and just say that that we are in this relationship in the long haul, for the long haul, and we are excited about innovating and excited about having the common ground and that we've established, and working together to achieve innovation while looking out for each other, helping each other make good decisions, and strategizing together for the future. And so with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Lori. I wanted to add on to what you said, that we're extremely proud of the work that we have done together, both some of the thought leadership work that has already been published that I think really presents some unique ideas at the intersection of artificial intelligence and healthcare, the work that we have already done to help together train the next generation of scientists that are needed to advance the field, and the scientific studies that we have underway, and many of them that we're working on designing, that will help us generate the evidence that will allow us to deploy artificial intelligence in healthcare safely and effectively. So we'll look forward to taking your questions.